my god. Wow. Ooh. I have so many goodies, Layla, look. Layla.
I don't care. I got red
Look, I
on
have so many goodies.
Yes.
They're so nice, lovely. Wow.
Next.
Oh my god, what is this? Oh, I've got a blanket. Thank you. Lena,
Oh my god,
you got
amazing.
that one. I've got the wheel one. What was it called?
Pinwheel.
Pinwheel blanket. Oh my god, this is fantastic. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is really nice. I love it.
What happened? Yeah. We do it again. Give it a second. Whoa. Well, if you keep knocking it over before I finish, that's what's gonna happen. You just want to destroy things, don't you? How about this one? Hi, welcome to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. This is episode 110 and today is Friday the 29th of September. So it's been a bit of a day. It's been a bit of a week, to be honest. But yeah, so we're here. Welcome. If you're new, thank you so much for checking me out. I hope you all enjoy this podcast. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really, really appreciate it. There are so many other great podcasts out there. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come back I want to say each week, but each time I record. It's not been particularly regular lately. So yeah, it's actually been a while since I last recorded and uploaded. I think the last thing I uploaded was on like the 17th of September, I want to say. It's about a couple of weeks ago now. I had planned on doing another vlog to go out last weekend, but I was really ill last week. Which happened to coincide with when my parents were visiting, which was a bit rubbish, but it is what it is. And yeah, so I just didn't end up recording much, but I did record little snippets here and there, so I will have put that all together as a bit of like a vlog intro to this episode, so you'll have seen that by now. And I hope you enjoyed it. And what else was I going to say quickly, catch you guys up on? As I said, yeah, so it's been a while since I've recorded a proper sit-down podcast. I think that last time I did that was right at the beginning of the month. So excuse me if things are a little bit rusty. Layla, who is my 7-month-old baby, geez, I can't believe that she's already 7 months old, is having a nap right now. So fingers crossed that she stays asleep long enough for me to be able to finish recording this. Otherwise, I may have a little co-host later on in the episode. What else I want to say? Oh, and Rhinebeck is coming up, which is really exciting. I haven't really mentioned it much, even though I am going, just because I keep forgetting to bring it up. I'm one of those people that I type up my show notes ahead of time, and I use that sort of as reference points. And more often than not, if I haven't written it into the show notes, I forget to talk about it. So if there's anything I've ever forgotten to mention, it's usually because I've forgotten to note it down, and it's not anything malicious or anything like that. Sorry, I'm still a little bit sick, I'm still a little bit congested, so if I sound a bit funny or I cough randomly, I will try and edit it out, but I cannot guarantee I will remember to do so, because I don't actually rewatch the whole thing. I kind of just know where I need to like chop and change and add bits and stuff to it, so in the editing. So I try to keep my editing as slimline as possible, otherwise it just wouldn't happen. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to Rhinebeck. I'm going completely off topic. I'm going to Rhinebeck and I'm really excited about that. We're all going, myself, Perry and Layla, and it's going to be a bit of a family affair. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. I mean, obviously, I am totally open to you guys coming up and saying hi and introducing yourselves and having a chat. That's all like totally fine. Like, I have no issues with that. My only caveat to that would be if I'm trying to feed Layla, I would appreciate you guys just giving us some space. Just Layla gets very distracted quite easily when she's being fed, and so I would appreciate fewer distractions for her. We'll obviously try and find, to be honest, Perry's going to be the one feeding her most of the time that we're there, I think, anyway. I'm just putting it out there as a FYI, but basically, if you see me, come say hi, is what I was trying to say. I will be at both of the pre-Rhinebeck events, I hope. I'll be at Needles Up and at Indie Untangled, I think, on the Friday night. I say I hope because while we're driving up together, I don't actually have access to the car. I believe Perry's the only one who's going to be able to drive, just because he has a company car and I'm not insured on it. So we will see how that goes. But basically, I'll be catching a ride with a friend from one event to the other. So assuming we manage to get to both, I'll be there for both. And yeah, so I hope to see you guys there. That will just be me though. Perry and Layla won't be coming to the pre-events on the Friday night, just because I think it'll be a bit too much for them. Yeah, I imagine Saturday's going to be overwhelming enough for Layla with all the new people, like just all the people in general, and stuff like that. So I kind of just want to, they're going to have a relaxed Friday afternoon and evening at the hotel whilst I go out. And yeah, so if you see me at any point over the weekend, and we will also be there on the Sunday as well. I'm not sure how long we're going to stay on the Sunday, but my plan is Saturday's mostly going to be about socialising and seeing friends and other knitters and meeting people. And then, if I happen to be able to buy things on the Saturday, then that's great, and if I don't, then I can go back on the Sunday. And if what I had in mind is still available, then great, and I can get it on Sunday, and if not, then it clearly wasn't meant to be. This is likely going to be the only chance I get to go to Rhinebeck, at least for a while anyway, because, I mean, those of you who've been watching for a while know that we will be leaving New York next year at some point, early next year. We still don't know where we're going, but I'll be sure to update you guys once we do. Okay, I think that's most of the intro stuff done, and I have a couple of other admin-y things to go over. There's a few sort of pattern information for you guys, bits of pattern information for you guys. First of all, the Road to Rhinebeck Mystery Knit Along is all the clues are out. You still have plenty of time if you want to jump in and join along. The knit along is going to run until the 22nd of October, which is the Sunday of Rhinebeck weekend, and so the knit along is going to run until then. But so you, like I said, feel free to jump in, but all the clues have been released. I was going to show the shawl this week on the podcast, but then actually I thought there's still enough people knitting it that haven't gotten to that final clue yet, and there haven't been that many finished objects posted into the finished object thread yet, which I totally understand. The last clue is definitely going to take the longest to do, but so I'm going to leave it a week, and I'll show you guys next week in the vlog, when I vlog next week, and then obviously in the following podcast as well I'll show you. So I thought to keep a bit of a mystery for a little bit longer, and I'll show you guys soon. Then the New York Sock Club, that is now officially sorry, that has now officially been completed, I guess is probably the right way of putting it. All the patterns have now been released, and yeah, so that's coming to a close soon. I will be drawing prizes for the end of September, and then that will be it until the end of November, where I will draw one last time from the monthly thread and from the grand prize thread as well. Just an FYI, for the grand prize thread, you only are supposed to have one post, which you go back and edit, and you add in a photo of each of the finished pairs of socks, or you can just add in one photo with all 7 pairs of socks included. It doesn't have to be a single photo for each pair. You just have to, in your post, have to have a photo that includes all 7 pairs of socks that you knit for the club, to be entered into the grand prize thread. I hope that made sense. And a couple of other quick little bits. I had a few pattern releases this last month, and the first set I released, it was a pattern collection, was the Seeded Path collection. So we have the Seeded Path cowl and the Seeded Path hat, and there were also a pair of socks, but I don't actually have the socks with me because I gifted them to my mum a while ago, so I can't show you the socks, but there are photos on the pattern page, and I do plan on knitting another pair, so I have a sample of that pattern. This is the cowl in worsted weight and the hat in worsted weight, and then the cowl also comes in a DK weight version, which is a bonus pattern, and the bonus pattern instructions give you the size for this sort of small cowlet, like the single loop cowl. This one's quite snug around the neck, which is nice, but obviously you can just cast on more stitches for more repeats if you want a wider cowl. Because I knit this out of a single 50-gram skein of Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, which is their DK weight, and the hat also comes with a bonus bulky weight pattern as well, and this is only in one size, but it comes with a bonus bulky weight pattern. So the bulky weight hat and the DK cowl are a bonus extra pattern when you purchase each of the hat and cowl patterns individually, or if you purchase it as part of the ebook, you get the bonus patterns as well. So that is now out and available in my Ravelry shop, which I didn't mention. I do have a Ravelry shop for my designs, which is Knitting Expat Designs, and I also forgot to mention we have a Ravelry group as well for the podcast, which is the Knitting Expat Podcast, on the groups tab, and you can also find me online as Knitting Expat on Instagram and Mina Phillip on Ravelry. Knitting Expat was already taken, but it doesn't seem to be an active user, which is a bit annoying. Anyway, moving on, the other pattern release that I've had this month was the Mix and Match sweater and hat set for children. So I called the collection Mix and Match for Children, I believe it was, because I'm planning on an adult version. The adult version for the sweater is going to be slightly different. I'm going to make a couple of different changes, but it's essentially going to be very similar. So we have, this is the child sweater. So this is the 1 to 2 year size, which is a really good fit on Layla right now, and it's got some good positive ease in there. It doesn't look, the best thing about this sweater, or at least with Layla anyway, is it doesn't look too big on her right now. It looks like a good fit, but also when you pick her up and you're holding her with it, you can see there's still quite a bit of room for her to grow into it, which is great. So hopefully she'll get to wear this next winter as well as this winter. And then I've got the plain version that I did. So this version was knit out of Maker's Haven yarn in the Layla colourway, and this was knit out of Primrose Yarn Company in the lemongrass colourway, and this is fingering weight held double. It's blowing out a bit, there we go, that's better. So I did this out of fingering weight held double, and this is the 6 to 12 month size. So it's slightly smaller than the other one, and this one's a more snug fit on Layla, but it still fits her perfectly fine. And yeah, will fit her well for this coming season. Then to go with the sweater pattern, I also I also created a hat pattern to go with it. And so this is just the plain beanie version, the simple stockinette version. And I also did, and this is one of the finished objects I have to show you, I also did a textured version to go with the sweater. And I'm not sure how well you'll be able to tell from here. It's got the same sort of high-low brim. Oh, there we go. It's got the same sort of high-low brim on the hat as well as it does, similar to how the hem is on the sweater. Sorry, I got a bit of a hangnail. So when it's on the head, it sits lower down the back of the neck and gives better coverage for the base of the neck, and also covers the ears nicely as well. And there's also an option for like a cute little knotted I-cord at the top there as well, which I think is really adorable, a bit different. So yeah, that's that. And so that's all the pattern information of everything that's out. We do also have a coupon code thread in the group, where if you're a maker and you wish to like advertise a coupon code or something, I would highly recommend you go and do that there. I am notoriously terrible at remembering to announce coupon codes and stuff, so if someone has sent me a package or something and included a coupon code in their note, I greatly appreciate that, but I will almost never remember to mention it on the podcast. So please go ahead and enter those coupon codes into the coupon code thread, which is the best place to do it. And obviously if you're interested in a coupon code or anything like that, then make sure you check out that thread in the group. Sorry, I'm just checking on Layla. She's moving around a bit, but it seems like she's still asleep. She has this habit lately of waking up half an hour into her nap, and sometimes she needs help to go back to sleep, sometimes she manages on her own. So I'm just checking to make sure she's okay. So let's crack on and get on with finished objects. I have a lot of finished objects to go over with you guys today, so let's get cracking. Might as well just start off with the hat, since I already mentioned it. So this is the Mix and Match hat, as I mentioned before, knit on 4mm needles using the texture pattern, and I did the high-low brim option with the knotted top. So I'm not going to talk much more about this. This used around 35-ish grams of the DK weight yarn. This is the Maker's Haven Simple DK 100% superwash merino in the Layla colourway, and Amber, who is the dyer behind Maker's Haven yarn, is going to have more of this in her shop soon. And then off the back of that, I also made an adult size version of the hat. I will try it on for you really quickly, but it's going to look a bit odd because I already have my hair up in a bun. But the fact is, this fits over a bun, so that's actually pretty good going, I think. And I knit this hat pattern will be coming out as well soon. I believe there are three or four sizes in the adult size. I can't remember now, to be honest. But I think there's only three. It's an adult, small, medium, and large, I believe. And so there's going to be there's 3 sizes for the child baby in the child hat and 3 sizes in the adult hat. And there are a few differences with the adult hat compared to the child one in the short rows for the back of the neck and stuff like that, which is why they're separate patterns. And yeah, so that's going to be coming out soon. And the yarn I used for this is Into the World in their Dresden DK, I believe it's called. Dresden DK is the kettle dyed colorway. Sorry, it's the colorway Mildly Amusing, dyed using the kettle dye technique. I think they have like 3 different methods of dyeing, and this was the kettle dyed version. And I absolutely love this color. I love this color so much. And you're going to be seeing more of this very soon. I'm going to wait to talk about that on the podcast a little bit later, but I mean not this episode, so in the future keep an eye out for that coming soon. So yeah, it's a weird bump on the back here, but the fact is this fits perfectly over my head even with a bun, which is great because my hair's almost always in a bun these days. So I stuck a little fluffy pom-pom on top. I'm not the best at making pom-poms, but I do enjoy a good pom-pom on a hat. I have those Clover pom-pom makers, so that helps. But yeah, so even with a bun on my head, this hat covers my ears and the base of my neck quite nicely. And without it, it gives it even more coverage. And I'm one of those people that wears my hats quite low down on my forehead, because if I'm cold in the winter, that's where I'm cold, not, you know, I don't wear my hat like this at the back of my head. I just feel like that looks really silly, and I'm always worried that my hat's about to fall off. I mean, it looks silly on me. I think other people can pull it off really well, but I just feel really silly doing that. For the first time in quite a while, my hat doesn't have a double brim. You'll notice. The reason being, it just felt a little bit too fiddly, or you know, just a little bit excessively fiddly to do that with the additional short row shaping that goes into creating this high-low brim effect. And the short rows are German short rows, which I explained in the pattern. So yeah, they're not complicated at all, but it's just you would have had to do it once this side, you know, you'd have had to do it once for the bit that folds in, and then again on the outside, so it just would have been reversing it, the shaping. It's not complicated, it can be done. It just felt a little bit too OTT for just a hat, as it were. But obviously if you weren't going to do the high-low brim, you could always do a folded brim if that is what you would prefer. I just wanted to do something a little bit different this time. And yeah, I am so happy with how this has turned out. This is the textured version, and I haven't even blocked this, and this looks great. So I feel like with hats, unless they've got a specific sort of stitch pattern or texture or something that needs to be blocked to really look good, you don't really need to block hats, because they kind of get blocked essentially as you wear them, kind of like with socks. But yeah, happy with how that turned out. Also knit with 4mm needles. And then I also finished knitting the little nugget sweater for my my nephew, my sister-in-law's baby. And yes, that's how that turned out. I used the leftovers from Knit Picks sort of Christmas kit, not kit, yeah, I guess they call it a kit, like yarn kit, where you get 2 skeins of each of these colorways. The fingering weight is the Knit Picks Stroll Tweed, and there was actually 6 colors in the kit that I got. I just used 5 for the blanket because I felt like it was a better balance of colors, and then I used the same leftovers for the hat, sorry, for the sweater. And this is the Little Nugget sweater, which is another pattern of mine available on Ravelry. I believe that's only sized up to 18 months, but I'm planning in the future on revisiting that pattern and reworking it a little bit and making it expanding the sizes in that one, so stay tuned. But for now, it only goes up to 18 months. And I did, so the colorways are Garnet Heather, Firecracker Heather, Oyster Heather, Forest Heather, and Sequoia Heather, in that order. And this really didn't use up a whole ton of yarn at all. I still have so much left over, but this is a really nice light fingering weight sweater. I believe I did this 0 to 3 month size, yeah, 0 to 3 month size in this one. And yeah, and the 0 to 3 month one that I knit for Layla still fits her now, just about. Like, I think she's verging on outgrowing it, but she's 7 months, so it's a good long-lasting sweater. There's quite a bit of positive ease built into this particular garment compared to the mix and match sweater, which has some positives but not as much as this one does. And then I also made a little matching hat. I made a little mix and match baby hat. This is the newborn size, and I did a little knotted top because how cute. How could I not? And I only used 3 of the colours for this one because again it seemed a bit excessive to do 5 for a tiny hat. So I used firecracker heather, oyster heather and forest heather for this one. That's really adorable, and you can see the little high-low bit on the back there. There's another finished object. So the sweater, sorry, the Little Nugget sweater used where is it? 3.75mm needles, US 5s, and the hat used again 4mm needles as well. And I held the yarn double for this one to get a worsted weight equivalent, or a DK worsted weight equivalent. What else do we have? Okay, so we have a few other things. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, but I have another 6 pairs of socks for Layla. So there's a ton more socks here for Layla. I'll quickly go over them. So I did I think this was the Staggered Path pattern from the Beyond Vanilla sock collection. I think it was part 2, this one, with the slip stitches. And this is using leftovers from some nomadic yarns, and I used a contrasting colour from the wool barn for the heels and one toe. I ran out of yarn, so I had to do the toe of the second sock out of that yarn, which is actually a very close match to the teal in the nomadic yarns. It's just a bit lighter, so I thought that worked quite nicely. I did a DK pair out of the leftovers from the mix and match sweater, and obviously subbed in another purple for the toe. I knit a pair out of some other leftovers I had, and this is using the mix and match texture pattern. I don't know why, but this one, even though I used this exact same stitch counts and needle sizes, turned out, actually this one turned out quite about a little bit smaller than that, but compared to another one that I knit with the same needle size and everything, it's so much bigger, the purple one, compared to the red one, which is a bit funny. So the red one is my Diagon Alley pattern. It's that Harry Potter inspired one, and this is again some leftovers. And this one, which I also knit recently, which is using the Grand Central sock pattern. It looks really cute on baby socks. And finally, this is the pair I was knitting out of the blacker yarns, which I showed last time I podcasted as well. So I'm also including all the finished objects I had, which I've shown on the vlog, the most recent vlogs as well, just because I know not everyone watches those. And this is using the Pebbles pattern, on Pebble sock pattern, also from Beyond Vanilla part 1. So yeah, I include the finished objects from when I vlogged as well, just for anyone who hasn't watched those but wants to watch, is interested in the knitting. Says that. She's now up to 10 pairs of socks for Layla, which is really adorable. Then we have more socks, adult socks this time. This is a pair for me, and yeah, and this is knit out of Narwhal Needleworks on their Ravenwood base. It's their tweed base, and it is the Lil Narwhal in the Big City, which was their Vogue Knitting Live colourway for this year's Vogue Knitting Live in New York, and I thought that was really, really fun. I had to get a souvenir skein for myself. I used my Pebble sock pattern for the texture. I wanted to keep it simple because I did the Maker's Cuff for the cuff at the top, and this is a cuff pattern by Amber of Maker's Haven. And yeah, I was testing it out for her, and I had these on the needles for a long time after I'd finished the cuffs but hadn't continued knitting the socks because I had a few other things going at the time. And then I finally picked them up and finished them off recently. And so these were knit on 2.25mm high sharps. I actually knit these concurrently, and did my garter short row heel with the mini heel flap adjustment, which is in all of the sock patterns from the New York Sock Club, and in my vanilla sock recipe pattern as well, which is available in my Ravelry shop as well. The New York Sock Club patterns are exclusive to club members until the end of November, and from the beginning of December they will be available for individual purchase. So for those of you, I've had a few messages from people about that recently, so I just wanted to reiterate that. It is mentioned on every single pattern page for the socks from the club that is the case, but I thought I would just reiterate that anyway. And then next up we have another pair of socks, and you guys didn't actually even see these as a work in progress because I knit them that quickly. It's a vanilla pair of socks. This is a gift pair for my brother. When he was here in May, I had him go through my yarn and pick out a few skeins that he liked for himself, and some for my dad as well, and he picked out this as one that he liked for himself. This is knit style yarns on her trendy sock base, which is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon. It is very soft for a 75-25. It feels great when you knit with it as well, and this is, and I love a lot of the times with hand dyed yarns, when you get speckled yarns like this is, a lot of the time half of the skein gets more of the speckling than the other half of the skein, and that is just the nature of how it's dyed, I imagine, because it happens so much. Sometimes it's very stark, other times it's not quite so obvious, but this time the speckling is very even between both pairs of socks and both halves of the skein. I mean, I can see there's slightly more speckling on here than there is on here, but not noticeable at all, and I think that's great. I know that this isn't necessarily the easiest thing to achieve, so I was very impressed with that, so congratulations to yeah, that's amazing. And the colorway, I should mention, the colorway is called Squirtle, which I think is really, really cute. It's a Pokemon reference there, so that's really, really fun. And yeah, I really like that. So it's a good vanilla pair of socks. The reason why I actually cast these on was because last weekend, whilst my parents were still here, Perry and I decided to make the most of the opportunity and go see the new Kingsman movie at the cinema whilst my parents were still here, because it had just come out towards the end of their visit. And even though I was ill, I really wanted to go see the film, and I knew we wouldn't have much opportunity after they'd left. So and I'd already started knitting these socks in the Pebbles pattern. So once we decided we were going to go, I had to wind up some yarn and cast on a pair of vanilla socks for the cinema, because whilst I probably could knit the Pebbles pattern, I would have to pay too much attention to what row I was on and keep track and stuff like that, and I just wanted to enjoy the movie and have my hands do some knitting. So I'd done the cuffs just before we went to the cinema, and I pretty much knit most of the leg. I think I ended up being only 15 rows away from the heel by the time we left the film, and then obviously did the heel and worked the leg and finished it off last night. So yeah, really enjoyed that, and also on 2.25mm needles. I think I used Chiagoos for this, which I've been really enjoying knitting with lately. And my final finished object, I posted a picture of this as a work in progress on Instagram recently, and sort of took a very obscure photo of it in terms of, so you couldn't really tell what the scale was, what the size was, what the weight of yarn was necessarily, or even tell what it was going to be at that point. So I thought it was quite fun to see what people would guess it was going to be. There were loads of guesses for mittens, socks, hat, baby sweater, things along those lines, and only 2 people actually guessed it correctly. I think there was, I can't remember how many guesses on the post, but only 2 people guessed correctly, and it's a Christmas stocking. I knit Layla a Christmas stocking. This was something I've actually really wanted to do pretty much ever since she was born, and I just wasn't sure if I was actually going to even get round to it this year. There was just so many other things I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure if a Christmas stocking was going to make it onto the list of things to knit this year. But I had this yarn, and the yarn is by Fern Fibre, who unfortunately have recently stopped doing business, I guess. I believe there were 2 lovely ladies, Maria, and I'm really sorry I'm blanking on the other lady's name, but there were 2 friends who were naturally dyeing yarns together and selling them, and I believe they both just wanted to sort of expand and work on other things, work on other projects and stuff. So they've stopped dyeing as Fern Fibre, and so unfortunately you can't get this yarn, but it's a very sort of rustic sheepy wool. The base for this yarn is Romney wool, and it is they get the fleece like spun for them, and so this was spun to a sport weight, and the grey is the undyed natural colour of the sheep, and the green is a mixture of, I believe it was dyed in indigo first and then dipped in goldenrod to get this lovely, which is like a yellow dye, to get this lovely green colour. But I have to say, so much indigo came off onto my hands when I was knitting with this. I think my fingernails are still tinged slightly blue. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm just going to focus. Yeah, my fingernails are still somewhat tinged. Let's just ignore how horrible my fingers are right now. But they're still tinged slightly blue from all the indigo that came off of it. Ironically, when I soaked it, not a lot of dye was running from it. So it's just from being knit with that it was coming off. It wasn't too bad, like most of it washed off every time I washed my hands, but there was that. The pattern is my own. I didn't use a pattern, I just sort of made it up as I went along, and it seems like quite a few people are interested in a pattern for this stocking, so I will be writing one up. It will be more of a stocking pattern / recipe with tips and tricks on how you can customize it, and I thought I would just show you the inside if you're interested in seeing what the floats look like. Those are the floats on the inside. It's not as stretchy as the non-colour work part of it, but it's stretchy enough that it will work fine. I'm also planning on putting a sewn lining into the stocking to help prevent it from overstretching over time, from being like stuffed with things at Christmas. And I'm probably not going to get around to doing that this year, to be honest. So, but how I would imagine doing it is just taking a piece of fabric, laying the stocking out over it, sort of like tracing around the edges, and just like sewing the edges, leaving the top open, and then how would I do? Yeah, turn the and then sew around the edges and turn like the giant sock inside out. So you got the raw edges showing, and then just fold over the top, what would be this part of the sock, fold over that part to the outside, sort of do a quick little running stitch around it to seal it off, so you've got a nice clean edge at the top. Stuff the sock inside the stocking, so you have the raw edges are facing out, but when it goes into the stocking you've got the clean edge on the inside, so the right side will be on the inside when you're looking into it. And then I would just hand stitch the top opening to the inside of the stocking. That's how I imagine doing it. If someone has a better way of doing it, please let me know, but in my head that seems to be the most like reasonable. I don't even know if that's the right word for it. That seems like the most logical way of doing it. And I think at the time when I do that, I will then also add a loop to it. I was going to do an I-cord loop out of the same yarn, which I probably still will do, but I will probably attach it on the inside somewhere, sort of at the base of the ribbing rather than at the top here, because then that will just like stretch that part out a lot over time. But if it's sort of like sewn into the whole edge of this ribbing, then when it's like hung up, it won't stretch it out too much, I hope. So, and yeah, and then obviously I'll have the lining sort of cover that a little bit as well. So that's the stocking. I didn't put her name on it because, I mean, I didn't like knit it in, because I wanted this to just be a classic stocking that she could then pass down to her children if she wanted to when she was older. And also I just wanted it to be a very sort of like classic design with a bit of Fair Isle colour work. I didn't want to do all over colour work because I didn't have enough of the grey to be able to do that. But I only had one skein of the grey and 2 of the green. Oh, and it's held double. It's a sport weight yarn held double. I knit on 5mm needles. I probably would have gone up to a 5.5 or 6mm for the colour work part if I had larger needles in my high sharps, but I don't. They only go up to 5mm in the set that I have. I don't have the large set, so I couldn't go up the next size. But having said that, it still blocked out pretty well, and I was conscious to try and keep my floats loose as possible. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm really chuffed with it, and like I said, I'll hope to get a pattern recipe sort of written up quickly and out to you guys as soon as possible, so you guys can get knitting your own. It really didn't take that long at all. This took me like 2 days. 2 days of knitting, that's all it took. And like knitting during the day and in the evenings, you know, when she was sleeping or napping, and during the day whenever I could find a couple of minutes here and there to work on it. So really, if I could do it in 2 days, pretty much anyone can do this pretty quickly. So yeah, no excuses. The equivalent weight, I would say, of yarn that I use would be somewhere between like a worsted to Aran weight yarn. So just a good thick yarn, and I will have notes in the pattern of how you could alter it to for different weights of yarn. If you want to make a smaller stocking, a bigger stocking. I'll even have instructions on how to do like a little mini stocking for like an ornament if you wanted to do one. I'll also include a chart for this pattern, this Feral pattern. You obviously don't have to use this pattern if you don't want to. You can, that's the other good thing about it. You can also adjust the stitch counts in the stocking slightly to allow for different Feral motifs if you'd rather use something else in there. But I quite like this one, so that's what I used. And yeah, so that will also be included. So that finally is that for finished objects. There were quite a lot there. But like I said, this is almost everything I did in September, so well, in the last 2 or 3 weeks of September anyway, so there's that. It's not, I guess it is still quite a lot of knitting. But on the flip side, I don't have much to show you in terms of works in progress. I have one work in progress in my Mrs. Brown bags. Mrs. Brown's bag. And my one work in progress is a pair of vanilla socks. So I realised I want to gift vanilla socks to friends and family for Christmas. I actually have a good stockpile of vanilla gift socks to give away to people that I've already sort of set aside. But I would like to have a few more just to be able to pick and choose from what I have on hand. So I already have this pair for my brother, and so other than the skeins that my brother had picked out that he liked for himself and some skeins for my dad, I went through my stash and pulled out a bunch of yarns that I thought would make good gift socks, as in like they're not necessarily they sort of fit in with the tastes and styles that I know that my friends and family will enjoy wearing, and also picked out sock yarn that would hold up well, that I felt would be easy to care for, not just like the opal regia type, but also some hand-dyed ones as well. And I wound up a few skeins last night just to have them on hand and ready to go. So I think I wound up 3. One is going to be socks with Perry, and the other 2 are just going to be regular vanilla socks to be gift knitting. But so we will see who they end up going to. So for now, I've just sort of cast on and starting, and then I'll decide whether I want to knit them to like a men's size or a woman's size. And there again, within my friendship group and within my family, most of the men that I knit for in my family, whether my family or Perry's family, have roughly very similar foot sizes. So I can knit to like a standard length and it should fit everyone, which is pretty handy. And same goes for my friends, my female friends. So yeah, there's that. So getting on with it, the sock yarn I'm using is by Crit Yum Handmade. And she sent me this colorway, this yarn around Christmas time last year when we just moved to New York. And she hand dyes her yarns based out of Canada. It's on her Rosanna sock base, 75-25 superwash merino nylon. This sock yarn is so soft you would not think it was a 75-25. I genuinely thought it was an 80-20 or had some sort of cashmere in it. It is that soft. And the colorway is Satrangi. I think I'm pronouncing it. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the colorway name, Satrangi. And it's basically a multicolored bundle of loveliness. There we go. So it's kind of like got like a greenish grey base, and it's just speckled with all these colours on top, which is really, really fun. And how far I've gotten is 1 cuff and half a cuff. I literally cast this on quite late last night, so I knit one cuff. Jeez, I can't talk today. Last night, and I started one this morning. And this is the other 50-gram ball. So I wound up 1 cake, and then instead of sitting at the ball winder to wind the second one, to wind it off into 2 50-gram cakes, I hand wound half off into a hand wound center pull ball. I've been trying to practice my hand winding of center pull balls lately. I don't know why, but I seem to have developed this desire to hand wind yarn lately. I guess it's because I can just sit in front of the TV and do it, whereas if I'm hand winding using my ball winder and Swift, I have to come to the dining table, and it's, even though they're relatively quiet like pieces of machinery. They're not like quiet, and it's hard to like watch TV or a podcast or anything over the sound of that. And lately I just, when it gets to the evenings, I just want to sit on the sofa and relax. So yeah, I really like how this has turned out, and I'm getting better at it. So yeah, I had someone comment on an Instagram post asking if I could do a video on how I do it, so I will hopefully try and remember to do that when I vlog this next week, that I'll include a bit on how I hand wind my yarn balls for you guys. So that's that. That's just going to be a plain pair of vanilla socks, 2.25mm Chagus I believe I was using, and 64 stitch vanilla sock, my usual go-to. Okay, I'm just going to take a little break and I'll be back with acquisitions. One last thing I forgot to mention was I also knit up a swatch last night, and this is using that Throat Punch colourway from Lavender Loon Yarn Company, and this is on her worsted base. She dyed this for me as yarn support for a children's pattern that I have in mind, so I was just swatching for it. I haven't washed the swatch yet, I'll do that today. This the reason why I swatched for this, even though I don't think I'm going to get a chance to cast this pattern on immediately, is because this weekend, Sunday, Perry's looking after Layla for the day, and I have a quote unquote design day is what I've started to refer to it as, where he's going to look after her for the day so I can get out of the house and get on with some design work. The thing is, whilst I can do knitting and stuff while looking after her, I've talked about this before, just like sitting down, spending a decent amount of time in one go to work out the maths and like draft the pattern and work on like that side of things with designing is very difficult to do when you have to keep stopping what you're doing every 5 minutes to like check on a baby or, you know, entertain her or feed her or whatever. So and also it's exhausting doing all of that. Looking after a child is exhausting work, so I mentally don't have enough energy to sit down and focus and think about it when it gets to the evening either. So I can do some things in the evenings, and I do some things, like I catch up on emails and messages, and I can edit patterns and I can like sort of finalize patterns, but actually sitting down and writing one from scratch takes effort and thinking and maths. There's quite a bit of maths involved, which I really don't mind, and I actually enjoy that side of it. It is incredibly like fulfilling, and I really enjoy doing that side of it completely, but I also just need to be in the right space of mind to be able to do it properly and not make a ton of mistakes that later have to be fixed. So every few weeks, or every 2 to 3 weeks, I try to schedule in a design day at the weekend where Perry, like I said, Perry looks after Layla and I can get out of the house and really focus for a few hours at a time and get like a bunch of designs worked on, or at least drafted or planned out and stuff like that. And it's a good sort of so it's a good break for me from looking after Layla, and also makes me feel good that I'm able to get a bunch of stuff done. So I'm getting another one of those days on Sunday. So I wanted to get this swatched and washed and blocked in time so that I knew what the gauge was for this yarn on these needles, so I can hopefully, if I have time, get to working on the maths for this one. Also, with my in-laws coming next week, end of next week, Perry's taking a couple of days off the following week when they're here, so I'll have a couple of days whilst they're here as well when they're going to be out of the house, and I'll have a few hours here and there where I can stay home and work on stuff and not have to necessarily go out every time with them as well, because Perry will be around as well, which will be good. So I'm getting on to the like blathery stuff there, but anyway, you know what I mean. There's that. So I'm really looking forward to getting some stuff done, at least getting stuff planned out, if not completely knit up. So okay, so moving on to acquisitions. Again, I have quite a lot that is, you can see the pile up here, quite a lot that has arrived or been given to me in the last little while. Most of this, if not all of it, is actually yeah, I think all of it pretty much is yarn support for, mostly for the sock club for next year, which is really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to being able to show you all the yarns that have come in for next year's sock club. So I had actually filmed this a little segment for this earlier separately when a bunch of packages had actually arrived at the same time, but I'm not going to include that because I watched it back and I sound ridiculous, and I don't know why I was on. But anyway, so the first package was from Turtle Pearl Yarns, and they contacted me to see if I'd be interested in working with some of their yarn for a design project, and I said absolutely. And whilst I do have a pattern designed or intended for self-striping yarn in the sock club for next year, I already actually have yarn coming for that pattern, I believe. And so I had something else in mind to use for this one, which will also be part of the club, but also will be available individually on its own if you didn't want to get it as part of the club. So they sent me 3 skeins to play with, and I'll explain more about the club in a second. So Turtle Pearl Yarns, if you don't know, they are known for their self-striping sock yarn, and they dye 2 50-gram skeins at the same time, so you get perfectly matching stripes. So the skeins they sent me, and these are all 75-25 superwash merino nylon yarns. So the skeins they sent me is Snow White, Mystic Topaz, which I really love the colours in this. These are just like all my favourite colours, greens, purples, blues, just lovely. And this is their Christmas colourway, Mistletoe Kisses. This is their Christmas colourway for this year. So I believe you can get this now on their Etsy shop. And I will, for all of the yarns and dyers and people that I mention in this acquisition segment, I will have links to their shops in the show notes for you guys. Which, by the way, show notes you can find at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. Everything is linked down below for your convenience. So yeah, so I will more than likely be knitting the sample out of this yarn. Depending on how the stripes work up, I may end up doing it out of this yarn instead. It just depends. The pattern I have in mind works well for even stripes. So looking at this might not necessarily work the best. I mean, it'll probably still be fine, but we will see when I work on it. But like I said, this is going to be for a bonus pattern as part of the sock club. So I've mentioned before there are going to be 2 sock clubs next year running concurrently. There's going to be a beginner sock club and a more intermediate/advanced sock club, and the patterns are going to be released on alternating months. So the beginner one might be January, then the intermediate one will be February, and then back and forth. So each club will have 6 patterns throughout the year, and then there's going to be a bonus Christmas pattern for this year. So the beginning of December, I believe, I haven't fully finalized exactly when the club pre-sales are going to go up. It'll probably be sometime in November when I start listing the pre-sales, and then on the 1st of December this sock pattern will be released. Fingers crossed, and that's what I'm aiming for. This pattern will be released, and it'll be my Christmas sock pattern for this year, and it will be released as a bonus pattern for anyone who has purchased the sock club, and as an individual pattern for anyone who isn't interested in the sock club but wants the Christmas pattern. So available both ways. And yeah, so these are the yarns that Turtle Pearl have sent me, and like I said, I think it'll likely be one of these 2 that I use for that, and we will see what becomes of the rest. Another one that came in the mail, and this one actually came, I picked it up today, was from the lovely Lolo Did It. I have a lot of the same dyers from this year's sock club coming back next year, so that's really fun as well. Should have opened this earlier. So she sent me some amazing yarn. We were talking about what sort of colorway that I wanted and to use, and this is what we came up with. She already had something similar. She made a slight tweak to it, and this is now called Tin Roof Remix. I can't remember what it was that she added to it. I think it was the yellow. She added more yellow to this colorway. I might be completely wrong, but I believe that's what it is. And this is going to become a regular colorway for her. I'm not sure when she's planning on releasing this, but this is called her Tin Roof Remix colorway. And this is on her Lolo's Favorite, 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. Just look at those speckles. That's absolutely amazing. I love them. It's got like golden yellows, sort of chartreusey greens, and like rusty red browns, and super soft. And she also sent a skein of Fame in the same base to use for contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. And just how beautiful is that golden yellow? It's just perfect. She also sent me one of her measuring tapes. always handy. I actually had one of my measuring tapes broke recently, so that's a really handy replacement. Some bulb stitch markers, which are my favorite. I use these all the time. Hands down, my favorite progress keepers are just these simple bulb stitch markers. I love the fancy ones, like the polymer clay ones, or the ones with little charms dangling from them, but quite frankly, these are the most practical ones I have. And she sent me, I don't know how well you can see it, but she sent a rainbow set from her shop. I believe she sells these in her shop as well. And so that's really good. I've sort of seemed to have lost a few somehow down the line. My little stash of bulb stitch markers have depleted, so this is going to be a perfect addition. And she also sent me a little sample of her Lolo Love Lavender Lil fragrance. I think it's like a hand balm, which again, perfect, because lately my hands have been really dry, so need a good balm. And she's also sent an extra skein of her Tin Roof Remix colorway for you guys for a giveaway, and this is actually on her singles base, so it's 100% superwash merino singles. Also comes with a set of the rainbow bulb stitch markers and a Lolo Did It tape measure. So thank you so much to Lauren, and this has some like major speckling going on. Look at that. I know it's in packaging, I don't want to take it out. I'll leave it nice and wrapped up for you guys. So I haven't decided what this is going to be used for, but this will be for a giveaway at some point. So thank you so much to Lauren for all of that. Let me get it out of the way. And then next up, we have a, jeez, stuff's about to go flying off the table. Those tissues there. This came all the way from the UK, the lovely Tracy from Nora Georgians. She, I got in touch with her about working together, like for her. I got in touch with her to see if she'd be interested in providing yarn support for one of the patterns for the club, and she said absolutely. And again, we talked about colours and stuff, and the sort of like, basically most of the patterns I have lined up for next year's sock club will work brilliantly for tonal, semi-solids, speckled, and that sort of type of yarn. Anything that's highly variegated is going to be very difficult to show off like the pattern to its full potential. I mean, of course you can use variegated, you can use whatever yarn you want really, but in order to show off the pattern to its best potential, something that's highly variegated and like really multicolored and crazy isn't going to be the best for most of the patterns for this club. So just putting that out there now. But she did amazing. Like, look how beautiful this colorway is. And I basically said purples and greens are my favorites, and some of the like colorways of her that I sent her to, like, I mean names that I sent her to sort of get an idea of what I was looking for, were also purples and greens. So she nailed it. I mean, just look at that. And she also sent a little green mini along with it for heels and toes. And so she's called this colorway Phillip Town, which is really adorable and really sweet. It's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon. It's really soft for a 75-25. I don't know what it is with all these super soft 75-25 yarns these days. Usually they feel a lot more, I don't want to say rough, but they feel more rugged. And yeah, so this is the Phillip Town colorways. And Philip is spelled as my surname is spelled, so that's really sweet. And it's not spelled the typical way. Blame Perry for that one. And she also sent a bonus skein, an extra skein in her DK weight yarn. This is Mrs. Fig of Wisteria Way, DK 100% superwash merino, and again, just this lovely purples. This is going to have to be some mittens, I think, for this winter. It's really soft and squishy and lovely. I've actually wanted to release a mitten pattern for a long time. I just haven't had time to work on one, so maybe that's what this will be. We will see. Then next up, more yarn for the sock club. Met up earlier this week with some of my knitting friends in New York, and we went out for dinner. And it was like 3 of our birthdays. So it was my birthday in September, Jacqueline from Brooklyn Knit Folk, and Tonya, who used to be the host of the Knitting Spring podcast. She hasn't podcasted in a while, and I don't know if she ever has plans of coming back to it, but anyway. And Gabby from Once Upon a Corgi also came down from Connecticut for the evening to join us for dinner, and she brought me some yarn to use for one of the patterns, and this is one of her colorways I've absolutely adored ever since I've seen it come out. This is on her Isaac 100% Superwash Polworth base in the Narnia colorway. It's absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous, love it so much. And yeah, I think before I leave I may have to hit up Gabby for a sweater quantity of this colorway. Don't know which base yet, but I may have to do that, because this is like the perfect green. This in my mind is the perfect shade of green. Absolutely love it. So this will be for one of the sock patterns. And then she also gave me a little extra for my birthday, which is really, really sweet of her. This is on her Ginger Superwash Merino Nylon Gold Stellina base. And this is in the Boss Lady colorway, which I thought was really adorable and really, really fun. So, little focus. Like purples and blues and greens and a bit of pink in there and reds, and it's really, really fun. So this looks like it would be a really fun pair of socks as well. So thank you so much to Gabby. And two more, almost there. I'm sorry for those of you who are not into like acquisitions and stuff. I hope you just skipped over this. So Kristen also came along to dinner, Kristen of Bullenvine Yarns, and she also brought a skein of yarn for the sock club for next year, which is really exciting. And so this is the skein that she gave me. This is her Mooncusser colorway, which again was her Halloween colorway for last year, and it's absolutely perfect. It is brilliant. Again, she asked me which colorway I wanted to use for the pattern, and I sent her a list of a few different options. I usually tend to do this with if a dyer approaches me for yarn support, or I contact a dyer, whichever way around it is, and they ask me to pick from what they have from their regular colorways, I usually give them a selection of options, a selection of choices. That way, you know, they can do whichever one is easiest for them or is more convenient or whatever. And also that way then it's a little bit of a surprise for me, because I don't know which one they're going to go for. But I was really, really glad that Kristen chose this one, because this is also one of my favorite colorways that she dyes. So unsurprisingly, it's purple. There seems to be a bit of a theme with this year's sock club, purples and greens. And this is on her Footsie base, which is her 80/20 Superwash BFL Leicester, Blueface Leicester, sorry, and nylon, which is a really, this is like probably my favorite sock yarn that Kristen does. Is this base is brilliant for socks. And a couple more bits. I promise not. This is the last yarny thing. I was contacted by the lovely Linda, who dyes yarn as Lavender Mountain Yarns, and she's recently started dyeing yarn, and she contacted me to see if I was interested in working with some of her yarn for a project, and I said absolutely. And she is an absolute darling, and look at this. It's a bit washed out. I'm trying to get a better colour representation. That's a bit better. It's not as, the lighter parts are not as light as it's showing on camera. But this yarn is amazing. It's on her Merino Cashmere Nylon Blend 80/10/10, and the colourway is called Morphin Right Along. So got the mauve aspect of it. See if I can get this up close and see if it'll get a better colour. There we go. That's a much better colour representation. It's a really beautiful tonal mauvey purple with lighter bits and darker bits throughout. And yeah, this is beautiful. And she sent me 4 skeins because this is going to be a sweater project. This is going to be a sweater pattern at some point in the future. I have an idea of what it's going to be. I haven't had much time to sit down and work on it. I probably won't have time to do it this year. I know I won't. I have a few other designs that I need to work on this year. So this won't get done, unfortunately. This won't get worked on this year. But I will get to it next year. But it's so lovely and it's so soft. And I can't wait to get to work with this. So thank you so much to Linda from Lavender Mountain Yarns for this lovely, this amazing yarn. And I just can't wait to work with it. So thank you so much for that. The last few things, I have been kindly gifted quite a few quite a few patterns for the podcast, for myself and for the podcast. So thank you so much to everyone for that. I will quickly run through them, but but I'm going to use most of these for upcoming pattern prizes for knit alongs. So the lovely Verena of the Wool Club has donated a copy of her Socktober pattern club to a viewer of the podcast, and I'm going to try and do this one quickly because October is almost starting. I think her, if I remember correctly, her club, the way it was going to work is that from the 1st of October, I think it's every week, there's 3 patterns that are going to come out. I think it's like every week or every 10 days you get a new pattern, and then by the end of the month you have 3 sock patterns. So she's given a copy of that away for the podcast, which is great, so thank you so much, Verena. And I'll be using that as part of the Sock Pattern Club end of September prizes. Then we were donated a copy of the Bernina cardigan by Madeline of Kingfisher Knits podcast. She actually released this pattern a while ago. It was around the time when Layla was first born, but I totally forgot to mention it, and she reminded me recently. Thank you for reminding me. So I'll be using that as a giveaway as part of the Knitting Expat year-long knit along prizes. Just make a note of that. And then recently, the lovely Marsha from Fairy Little Podcast, she recently released her first sweater pattern. So congratulations, Marsha. Blah, blah, blah. Congratulations, Marsha. And she released her Scarha sweater, so that looks amazing. Congratulations. It's for men and for women. It's a unisex pattern, and there's optional waist shaping if you want to include it or not, and it's got a really sort of fun basket weave pattern down the front of the sweater. And yeah, so she gave me a copy and donated a copy for you guys, so that will also be going into the prize pool for the Knitting Expat Designs year-long cal for the end of September draw. And then SS, who is Crit Yarn Handmade, whose yarn I'm currently using, has also released a shawl recipe. It's called the Tircha, T-I-R-C-H-A, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Tircha shawl recipe. So thank you again, that will go into the Knitting Expat Designs cal prizes. And finally, we were donated a copy of the Misty Mountain Socks pattern by Hannah, who is Yarn is All You Need on Ravelry. So congratulations, Hannah, on your sock pattern release. I think it's her first pattern, and it's a really beautiful sort of lace pattern sock. So congratulations again, and that will go as part of the Sock Pattern Club end of September prizes. And the last thing I have to show you, finally, I promise this is the last thing for acquisitions, is this little wooden doll, who, if you haven't been on Instagram lately, or you just didn't see the post come up, the lovely Andy from Andre Sue Knits has released this little wooden cutout doll called, I believe it's called Button Up Betty. Bundle Up Betty, so Bundle Up Betty. And so Betty is the doll, and the idea is that you purchase the wooden doll cutout, and then you knit her clothes. So she sent this to me whilst it was still under test knitting, like the patterns that she designed for the doll were under test knitting, and I didn't have time to test knit them, but she wanted to send me a Betty anyway for Layla, which was really, really sweet, and I'm hoping to be able to knit her a little dress soon for Layla to play with her. So this might be Layla's little Rhinebeck toy. So we will see how that goes as well. It shouldn't take too long to work on it, but I just haven't had the chance yet. So that's it for acquisitions. Finally, I will move on quickly to knit along and giveaway news. We have 3 knit alongs going on at the moment. We have the Knitting Expat Designs year-long knit along, and I will be drawing prizes for that at the end of September. All the patterns I mentioned earlier, as well as these 2 skeins of yarn, are going to be prizes like individually. So we have a skein of Primrose Yarn Company on her, I think it's now discontinued, Opal base, which is a superwash merino tussar silk blend in the Galaxy colorway, and this skein of Beautiful Mess Yarn Works on her 80/20 superwash merino nylon in the Mango Tango colorway, which is really, really neon. I mean, that's blowing out quite dramatically. That's a bit better. So these are also going to be prizes, as well as, like I said, all the patterns I have previously mentioned. Then we have the Road to Rhinebeck mystery knit along, which is currently going on, and the prizes I've picked out for that now are these 2 skeins of these yarns are actually from Turkey. They are 75-25 super wash merino silk blends, and 100 grams is 350 meters, so just under 400 yards per skein. And these two lovely sort of, they don't have colorway names, but like matching sort of greys, grey blues. One's darker, one's lighter, obviously. So that'll be one prize. Another prize is going to be a Knit Crate box. They sent, Knit Crate sent me this box this package to review, and I can't remember which month it was now. Which month was this one? Can't remember. I think it was August, if I'm not mistaken. This was August month. So there was 3 skeins of this Sugar Bush Chill. It's Canadian yarn. It's like really chunky single ply merino yarn. It's 3 balls of that, plus some other little goodies and things in here. So this will be another prize for that. And the final prize is going to be this lovely bag from the wonderful Rick of Whimsy Stitches, this Wonder Woman bag, which will be the 3rd prize for the Road to Rhinebeck Mystery Knit Along. And there may be a 4th prize, I just haven't figured out if there will be. It depends on the number of finished objects we get in the thread, and depending on that I may throw in a 4th prize or not. And then the last knit along we have going on at the moment is the Sock Pattern Club. And the end of September, sorry, I just realised I got some prizes mixed up. My bad. So the prizes, these 2 that I said were going to be for the year-long knit along, are actually for the sock club. Sorry, I got them mixed up. These are going to go with the sock club, along with the sock patterns that I mentioned were going to be as prizes. So these 2, along with the Volca sock kit, is going to be part of the September prizes. The Socktober Pattern Club, the Misty Mountain socks, as well as the Clark socks, which were donated last time, which I mentioned, by Jacqueline of Brooklyn Knit Folk. So these 2 are going into that prize package. For the year-long knit along with these yarns, I'm sorry, I got them muddled up. So this one is another Turkish yarn. It is an Angora Merino blend, which is really, really lovely and soft, super squishy. There's a lovely halo to it as well. And this skein of, I think it's, what's it called? It's Subel yarn. It's a 100% merino, 100 grams, it's 500 meters. So this is a light fingering weight. And it's a really interesting yarn because I believe it's more, it looks like it's got more of a chainette construction to it. So something a little bit different for you guys. Sorry about that. Okay, that's that for the prizes. I had to run through that really quickly there because Layla's woken up and I have to go get her, I think. So that's it for the knit along news. Like I said, we've got all these knit alongs going on. If you're interested in any more information about them, I do have threads for all of them in the group, so make sure you go on ahead and check that out. And one final thing I did say I would mention on this podcast was the winner for the We Are Knitters $50 gift card giveaway. I was donated 2 $50 gift cards by We Are Knitters to give away to you guys, and I decided to do one as part of my birthday giveaway, and one I'm going to do next month. So the winner for this $50 gift card giveaway was, and I had a separate thread for this, and the winner was number 86, and that was Paige Bolling. Paige Bolling, I'll pop your name up here for you. So if you can please get in touch with me with your email address, I guess is all I will need. Your name and email address, and I will contact the people at We Are Knitters to send that prize to you. I believe it's like an e-gift card, so I don't think it's like a physical card that they have to send. So I think they will just email it to you. So yeah, if you can get in touch with me and let me know you've seen this, then I can get your information to them. And yeah, okay, I'm gonna go grab Layla and I'll be back in a minute to finish off the episode. Okay, so I'm back now with Layla. Hello. You say hi? Yeah? You say hi to everyone? Just got her in her high chair so I don't have to like wrangle her while I'm trying to talk to you guys. Okay, so I went over really quickly the knit-alongs and prizes and stuff like that we've got going on. I will try and keep on top of showing you guys the prizes as and when I like pull them out ahead of time rather than so close to the deadlines for the knit-alongs. For the year-long knit-along, Knitting Expat Designs Year Long Knit Along, and for the sock club, both of them, the next prize drawings for those will be at the end of September. So today's the 29th, tomorrow's the last day that you can enter. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So I will draw prizes for those early next week, and I will do that sort of vlog style really informally as a separate video, separate prize winners video, which I will upload to YouTube, and hopefully you guys can get in touch with me and I will get those prizes out to you as soon as possible. Yeah? She's got a little like toy mirror thing here that she's staring at and chatting to herself. So we can review. Layla's now 31 weeks old. She's officially 7 months. She is sitting all on her own and is like using her high chair now properly, which is great. I still can't get over the fact that she's 7 months old. She's 31 weeks, I don't know if I said that. She's starting to sit up on her own from laying down, although she has to be propped up on something for her to be able to do that. She can't do it completely from flat yet, but she is trying very, very hard. We went to our first Gymboree class today, so that was fun. It was a little bit full on for a little baby. I think it was all a little bit overwhelming at first for her. It was just like so much going on and so many babies and stuff like that. So there was a few meltdown moments where she was just like a little bit overwhelmed, but she did so well. She did incredibly well. There's a little cuddle and she was fine. That was definitely the clingiest I've ever seen her be. She's never been a clingy baby to want to like have to be held all the time and stuff like that, but there were definitely occasions where she sort of like turn around and like put her arms up and wanting a cuddle, so which was really cute. She's never really done that before, so that was adorable. So we'll be going back there again, which is really convenient because they're only like 1 block over from us, so that'll be nice and convenient to be able to take her there, especially as the weather starts to get a bit rubbish and going out to the park and stuff isn't as easy to do. She was properly ill for the first time after we got back from Vegas as well, which was a little bit heartbreaking. She had a bit of a cold, and that's mostly cleared up now. She's still a little bit congested, but otherwise she's totally fine. She didn't even have a fever at any point, but so that's all good. Like I mentioned, we went to Vegas while my parents were here, so that was really fun. It was an experience. I'm not going to go into much detail about that at all because I did a whole vlog just on Vegas, and I had a good sort of recap section at the end of the vlog where I went into a lot of detail about the trip. So if you're interested in hearing about it, then head on over and watch that video. Yeah. Making her opinions known. What else? I got really ill the week after we got back from Vegas as well. It started out as just like a really annoying sort of sore throat and like feeling a bit like I had a cold, and then towards the end of the week I was starting to feel better, and then on Friday I went out with my parents while they were here. We went to the Statue of Liberty and I felt so rubbish, so bad all morning, and I just felt progressively worse and worse. And then once we were done at Statue of Liberty, I told my parents to go to Ellis Island, and they wanted to do a couple of other bits afterwards. I said definitely go do those things. I'm going to go home with Layla because I don't feel well at all, and Layla needed to have her lunch nap anyway, and I kind of wanted to try and get home in time for her to have that at home. And as it happened, Perry got home really early that day as well because he was still feeling a bit tired and from being ill as earlier in the week himself. But by the time I got home, I was so shattered. I was trying to feed Layla her lunch, like her lunch solids, and I just started crying. I was so tired. I was just exhausted, and it was just like, everything got a bit much. Thankfully Perry was home, so he took over with Layla, and I went and had a little lie down. And I ended up having a low-grade fever that night, and overnight it was just, that was definitely the worst of it. Saturday morning? Yes. Saturday morning I felt much better, but still not completely great, and by Saturday evening I was starting to feel more like myself, which was good. Like I said, Perry and I had a couple of nights out whilst my parents were here. Even though neither of us were feeling amazing, we still managed to get out a couple of times whilst they were here to make most of the fact that we had a babysitter staying with us. So that was good. And yeah, so my parents had a really good time, even though I wasn't feeling great. It was really nice to have them here. I'm really glad they got to go out and do quite a bit of sightseeing around New York, and also my mum made like a ton of soup while she was here, so that was also really nice and helped in me feeling better as well. Then what else did we say? So also this week, one of my cousins was in town with her husband and daughter. Her daughter's actually the one who was over visiting us at the beginning of September for a few days over the Labor Day weekend. So they were staying nearby, and it was really nice to be able to catch up with them a few times whilst they were here, and for my cousin to get to meet Layla again, so meet Layla for the first time. Yeah. And they left yesterday, and so that was nice. Yeah? Was that nice? Did you enjoy meeting them? Yeah. We went to the park and they came around here, and anyway, we just caught up and it was really nice and fun. Sorry, I'm talking to you guys like I'm talking to Layla, and it's not great. Seriously, she's like the only person I talk to most of my days, so sometimes I end up sounding a bit weird. I'm sure anyone else who has been a stay-at-home mum for any amount of time will know what I'm talking about. Okay. Also, while my parents were here, it was my birthday on Sunday that just gone. So that was, again, it was nice to be able to have them here for my birthday, and we all went out for breakfast together and stuff, so that was really nice. And like, again, as I mentioned earlier, Perry's parents are coming next week, which should be really, really good. His dad hasn't met Layla yet either, so like when we went to Vegas was the first time my dad got to meet Layla. When they come over, it's gonna be the first time Perry's dad gets to meet her as well, so that would be really nice. By the end of this trip then, Perry will have met all of her grandparents, which is great. And like I mentioned earlier, on Tuesday this week, I went out with some of my knitting friends, so we all went out for dinner somewhere. It was in the Lower East Side. So it was myself, Jacqueline from Brooklyn Knit Folk, Julie from Sweet Sparrow Yarns, and Denise from Yoshi and Lucy Knits, Tanya, who used to be the host of the Knitting Spring podcast, but she's not recording at the moment, and Kristen of Vullenvine and Yarngasm podcast, and myself and Gabby from Once Upon a Corgi. So it was a really good group. It was really nice. We all got together again. It's been a while since we got together last time, and it was well overdue. And we've actually already arranged the next time we're getting together, which is good. And I said it's difficult for us all to be able to like manage our schedules and time when we're all free at the same time. So it's nice to be able to get things booked in advance, as it were. And yeah, last bit of news: Perry is still doing job interviews and trying to figure out where we can go. He's basically had a bunch of, I guess what you'd call like first round interviews, so like introductory phone calls with people, and most of them, if not all, seem to have gone really well. And so now it's more just a case of seeing who comes through quicker, who comes through next with like second stage interviews, and seeing where things go and who can move quicker than other people. We're on a bit of a time crunch, and so it's really more a case of we just see what works out. Nothing definitive. We've been discussing where we'd be willing to move. I've basically said to him, just apply everywhere and we will see, we'll decide when it comes down to it. If something becomes an option or comes onto the table as an option, then we'll talk about it. Yeah. Every now and again, like I get a text from him being like, what about this place? Or what about that country? Or what about that city? And I'm like, sure, why not? We'll go there, it's not a big deal, we'll make it work. There's some really random ones that popped up as well in the course of things. So it'll be interesting to see what does work out in the end. She just dropped a mirror. Okay, I think that pretty much sums up everything I had to talk about with you guys today. Layla is in a bit of a slapping stage right now, where she wants to slap everything and hit everything and make sure it's definitely dead. Yeah? Alright, well thank you for joining us today, and I hope Layla wasn't too distracting in this last little segment. Yeah. Yeah. Gotta wait for her to finish first. Yeah? Obsessed with like wires and my phone and stuff like that. This morning, I kid you not, I sat on the sofa, she's on one side of me, my phone is on the other side, and she dragged herself over my lap to the other side just to get hold of my phone. She's not quite crawling yet, but she's able to drag herself from one side of the sofa to the other just to get to my phone. If she's ever gonna start, whenever she starts to crawl, if she decides to crawl, it's gonna be to get to my phone. Isn't it? You done now? You ready to say goodbye? Alright. Bye guys.